Ashini podi noise එකක් එනවද? දැන් හරිනේ. Ashini podi noise එකක් එනවද Ashini?
No, sir.
I think it's birds chirping. Is it in the morning? Oh, not sure. That's what I also hear.
Yeah, maybe from my garden actually.
Yes, I can hear. Yeah.
හරි Ashini පටන් ගන්න. Ashini ඔයා ප්‍රශ්න අහුවට පස්සේ ඔයාගේ මයික් එක පොඩ්ඩක් ඔෆ් කරන්න මේ ආන්සර් එක ඉවරනකම්. හරි. I'll wish you all the best. You can start and you invite to the Dr. Dheeraj sir as a guest in the beginning of the discussion. For few words.
Ayubovan, good morning. Welcome to another session of live interviews in line with the South Asian International Education Summit 2022. So first of all, let me just brief on the summit I've mentioned at the beginning. So it's the South Asian International Education Summit 2022, which will be held from 18th to 20th June 2022 in Colombo, Sri Lanka. So apparently we are just 1 week away from this event, and therefore I take this an opportunity to invite all the countries in the region to visit Sri Lanka and join in hand with us on this event. So moving back to today's interview, we've invited Dr. Maya Gunawardena from Australia. Dr. Maya is an assistant professor of teacher education at Faculty of Education, University of Canberra. So on behalf of the SAIIHE Association, I would like to warmly welcome you, madam, for this interview. And as usual, we have Dr. Dheeraj Malhotra from Kunwar Global School, India. Welcome, sir. And last but not least, we have Mr. Jonathan Kamal Gordon, the president of our association. Welcome, sir. Well, as we all are aware by now, this education summit is mainly focusing on ECCD and general education. And further, we are highlighting 21st century skills throughout this summit. So blending all these factors together, today we are discussing on social and emotional development in ECCD while prioritizing on some 21st century skills as well. Further, our guest speaker will be highlighting on storytelling, as she has done many researches on this factor as well. So prior to commencing this interview, I would like to invite Dr. Dheeraj Malhotra to speak a few words.
Thank you, Hasini. And it's morning to everybody. Greetings from Lucknow, India. I'm excited today to share my views on the wonderful topic which talks about the social emotional learning. We call it here in SEL, in integration with the national education policy in the country. Here in India, we got included it as a part of learning right from the pre-primary, that is the lower level, and we tend to reflect on developing self-awareness, self-control, and the interpersonal skills among the children through storytelling, as what Madam is going to integrate today. And we also look forward to, in our new education policy, we call it NEP 2020, where we are promoting the self-talk. We are also promoting the self-awareness and the self-regulation, keeping the fact on learning about students' interest in view, and also the random acts of kindness where it comes in practice. So the Saturday activity, even we have integration of no bags day, like they talk about a no bag day, wherein children will be allowed to come just with the water bottle and the tiffin, and they'll have experiential learning outside which is going to integrate more of connect and human relations through the acts of kindness. And this type of a relationship is going to mentor them with the perfection, because pandemic left them at a very, very perplexed situation. And in this VUCA world of uncertainty, there is a requirement now that we manage them well. And the approach here is to mount on making them resilient, to overcome the setbacks, and how the resilience has to be practiced in them and integrated in them through the methodology of better comprehension, better stroke, and better way of integration. So let's come together to integrate this concept globally through this platform. And I'm very sure that with the approach of building relationships to develop healthy identities for the children will go a long way in managing emotions. And the other day, like the newspaper report today itself talks about a very, very, unfortunate event, which talks about that the child was disallowed to play PUBG on the mobile phone, and the child murdered the mother. Just imagine. And the dead body was lying in the room for 3 long days. So this is the issue which is disturbing the whole structure, the whole format of what type of mental health does the child go through because of the overuse of technology and the dependence of technology in a big way. So I believe that it is high time we educators need to come together and not only talk about promotion of quality literacy, but also, making them perfect in that scenario. So I look forward that, yes, the scenario is going to be different altogether. Post-corona, we have all governed ourselves to a better stroke, and we need to be extra vigilant now with the approach of gaining that confidence. And I'm very sure that participation today, Madam is going to be sharing some more views. So over to you, Maya ma'am. Thank you very much. And thanks once again for giving me this opportunity to share the platform with a wonderful professor from Australia. Thank you, madam, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So with that, we can start our interview on developing competencies to enhance social and emotional development. So, dear Dr. Maya, I would like to invite you to give us a brief self-introduction of you prior to starting with the questionnaire.
Thank you, Hasini. Thank you very much for this invitation. I consider it's my privilege to be here and presenting at this conference. My name is Maya Gunawardena, as you have just introduced. I'm from Australia, working at University of Canberra as an educator here. I've been here for 15 years. I got my basic education from Sri Lanka, and I'm very proud to be a Sri Lankan and an Australian. So my research falls within humanities and social sciences in multidisciplinary areas. I work with in the initial teacher education programs and TESOL programs, teaching English as a second language programs. So that's perhaps a quick introduction to me, who I am, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So to start with the interview now, Australia being a developed country obviously focuses heavily on education, and probably the government involvement must be considerable in setting standards and maintaining them. So is there a national standard for early childhood development with regard to social and emotional development?
Yes, of course, Hasini. And Australia being a developed country, it has evolved over time. Everywhere we improve our quality of education, and we are also still improving. And I'm very proud to be a part of this evolving process of quality education, raising the standard of education. So the Australian education quality, or if governed by national quality standard, particularly the social emotional development of children, is governed by national quality standard. Area 2, health and well-being. Area 5, relationship with children, to make them responsive, respectful, and promote children's sense of security and well-being. So the overarching, the standard quality document is National Quality Standard document. And apart from that document, we also have early years framework for early childhood education that actually illustrate the elements of social emotional learning and the proposed pedagogies for social emotional learning. Also, the National Australian Curriculum has considered social emotional learning as one of the key components of education, and it is one of the 21st century skills, and these soft skills are very important to make informed citizens who can make really good decisions, informed decisions, and good relationship building. So the Australian curriculum has included elements for social emotional learning from K to 12 classrooms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for that good start, actually. So social and emotional development is a key contributor in achieving total development within a child. So can you please explain the aspects of social and emotional development that you or your country propose as important for children?
Let me also elaborate on certain other aspects of Australian education. As for jurisdiction, state and territory governments in Australia, 6 states and 2 territories are responsible for making decisions about education, particularly determining what happens and what policies are to be enforced in relation to education. National curriculum also provides guidelines to the sort of all states. They're not, national curriculum is separate. The different states use different curricula and territories use different curricula, but they're not very different. So national curriculum maintain the standard of social emotional learning and provide guidelines for teachers, education designers, and teacher education providers to enhance the quality of social emotional learning and the elements that are highlighted in the framework of cell education. So we do have a really robust approach in training teachers, enhancing teacher education, helping them developing competencies and pedagogies for developing children's social emotional skills, cell skills. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Building competencies. I'm so sorry for that.
That's okay.
Building competencies with regard to social and emotional development is an output of various activities, various strategies in an ECCD center. So what approaches or strategies are being used in preschools or primary schools in your state or in your country to help children build skills with regard to social and emotional development?
All right, before I answer your question, Hasini, I'll take you through the framework that we will use, a particularly different aspect or elements of cell education. We use a framework for SAIIHE, which is CASEL, developed or born in the US and improved and implemented in all countries, perhaps most countries in Europe and in the West. So in this framework, we have several elements that we aim to develop in children's early childhood education and primary education and all sectors across education. So for example, one of the skills that we want children developing is self-awareness, understanding who they are, understanding, awareness, having an awareness about who they are. Another one, self-management, controlling, self-control, self-management, self-concept. These are very important aspects of SAIIHE education. So controlling, understanding emotions, recognizing emotions. It's also important for children to understand the society or social awareness, the family members or the community members, teachers, whoever they associate with. And it's very important in this framework for kids to know about relationship skills, how to build relationship skills between the monks in their with their colleagues, with their peers, teachers, parents, family members, siblings, neighbors, and all sorts of these skills are very important. Ultimately, they're talking about the important elements of SAIIHE education is responsible decision-making skill. So we aim as a community to develop these skills, and the curriculum shows different areas that we could help children developing: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, decision-making, and relationship building skills. So these skills are very important, and we have recognized this as a framework, developing foundation skills that we actually have very evidence-based SAIIHE strategies in our classrooms. And parents and teachers are educated to use this evidence-based approach to SAIIHE education. So therefore, our pedagogies, the approaches are quite dependent on these elements. So we actually use a diverse range of strategies to educate young people of SAIIHE education. I mean, having these skills developed, understand who they are, have their self-concept, self-awareness, social awareness, self-control. So we do various programs. But at this symposium or this forum, I would like to enhance I would like to actually not necessarily discuss the power of storytelling as one of the best pedagogical frameworks to develop SAIIHE skills. Stories are really powerful. So this is very important that the teachers use constant storytelling approaches in primary schools to develop students' skills and competencies for social emotional learning. But this storytelling just not be used as telling any story or superficially. It has to be thoroughly embedded built into the curriculum, and teachers need to be guided and supported to help them with the storytelling processes, to have really good dialogue, very interactive and interactional education in their classrooms to make them the students develop their wisdom. And it's not the teachers who are actually telling the stories, but it's the interactions and the scaffolding thinking. So this is very important in the classroom. that's something I really recommend that all teachers should use. And this is something that I'm going to highlight and I'm going to talk more about in this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So when considering the social aspect, one important factor for a child is to build, as you mentioned earlier also, to build healthy relationships with parents, with adults, with peers, and which will be very supportive when they especially go to the society. So likewise, how parents, teachers can help children to develop their social behavior. What kind of activities do you find helpful in doing so?
So let me also once again reiterate the need for need for storytelling, how important it is. I call this storytelling as authentic storytelling. This is not fairy tale. I'm saying select stories that represent your real life, that mimic the experiences that you have everyday life. Students should not be told to think about them, reflect on their own character, but they are given opportunities to reflect on their character, their personality, their behavior, their feelings through stories. So I say, let's take authentic storytelling where they have real life encounters, real life experiences. Let's get the students to unpack the information in the stories. You have to have a hierarchy. In one of the papers that I published, I talk about a taxonomy for developing wisdom. How should we do this? Getting students read the stories, gathering information from stories, developing the knowledge about stories. That's sort of a very superficial way of knowing stories. Many teachers would stop at this level and the stories are done and the storytelling is usually in there. But I would say you shouldn't do that. You need to have dialogue in the classroom where they draw insights from stories and then think about, reflect on their own character. Rather than teachers particularly directly getting or commenting or giving feedback or overphrasing of young people, it's really good if they can reflect on their own emotions through stories, on experiences through stories. It's a very inductive way of teaching self skills, not deductive. I find deductive approaches to self education is not necessarily very helpful or very effective. But inductive approaches like storytelling are very powerful and the impact is quite interesting and last long impact, I would say. Storytelling, once again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam, for opening our eyes towards another mile on storytelling, which would be very beneficial if we use it in an effective way to awaken the social and emotional skills within a child. So moving to another subdomain under social, I would like to discuss the significance of self-concept. So literally, what is self-concept and how do you elaborate the importance of self-concept?
Self-concept is how we perceive our behavior, ourselves, our abilities, our unique characteristics. So let's go back to storytelling again. How are we going to do this through storytelling? So if you go back, if you tell them a story about, let's say about a particular family or a boy or whatever actions, they could reflect on the characters, what's happening in the characters, and they can reflect on their own behavior. So this is very important rather than adults also find measuring understanding self-concept, it's quite challenging. If you think about who you are, how are you going to actually measure who you are? It's very hard. It's hard for adults. If it is hard for adults, it's even harder for young people. So the stories allow those opportunities for them to have, like, analyze characters, reflect on their own characters, develop the critical consciousness. For example, like critical consciousness, different the levels, social, economic levels or social levels in their communities, understanding who are privileged, who are underprivileged, different, like, the discriminatory practices in the communities make sometimes our emotions, like when we get angry, when something happens in a situation. So these stories actually allow students to develop this self-concept about their own behavior, and they also can reflect on misunderstanding, misinterpreting, or stereotypes. We all live with stereotypes. So when you don't or mistakenly understand stereotypes, and when you take on, highly lean onto stereotypes, you are not necessarily developing your self-concept. So you don't necessarily understand who you are when you are unable to see who you are in the community, who you are, what your emotions are, how you're dealing with your emotions. So this is very important. Through stories, kids can articulate, students or children can articulate how they feel about characters. They can, I know, they're not necessarily reflecting on their own self-concept, but they're talking about a character, they're reflecting on their own character. So if they're thinking about a behavior that is not appropriate, that is not necessarily acknowledged, or that's not necessarily promoted, they'll see themselves. You don't have to necessarily tell them. They'll see, they'll understand. They're very intelligent, smart people. If we allow them defining, understanding, interpreting, this is something that we should do. Rather than not telling them, not telling them, but actually help them understand and have different perspectives. I can see who I am, but do other people see who I am, the way I see who I am? So it's really hard thing for anyone to actually have this self-concept. Through stories, we can allow children having their own self-concept, which is really powerful one, not something really fragile, something very powerful. So this is very important. And it is not effective when teachers tell them who they are. It's hard for us to tell who other people are. We can't comment. We can't comment even on young people. We could say, get them to think about the behavior. We are not necessarily saying the behavior is inappropriate. They understand the behavior is appropriate or inappropriate. They develop that wisdom in order to be able to interrogate their own thoughts, have the window or the mirror. They have the mirror. So the mirror, you have to see yourself through the mirror. They have to see the window. How do they see the window? Through windows, they see others. So we need to allow them more opportunities to mirror them and window others to develop self-concept. Thank you, Hasini.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So what I felt was like storytelling acts kind of as a shortcut to make them understand, make the children understand who they are really, which is otherwise a very complex process. If we, if we go by the normal, the contemporary teaching procedures to make them convince who they are. So moreover, it's a shortcut in making them convince who they are, which is really attractive and which is really effective. So analyzing this social factor further, we have the concept called self-expression again. So which again plays a very vital role. So discussing from the parents' point of view, what can they do to develop self-expression in a child?
Yeah, I know. Self-expression, self-control, managing your emotions. I think we, first of all, allow them communicate, allow them articulate how they feel. Particularly when it comes to emotions, we feel a range of emotions. We go through, like we sometimes feel differently. Even adults find difficult to understand their emotions. So children find it difficult too. So therefore, it's very important children have opportunities to recognize their emotions. So they should be able to express their emotions. Like, I feel angry this time, or I feel sad this time. And think about, why am I angry? Why am I happy? Why am I jealous? So when you actually given that opportunity to understand the emotions, when they read a story, they feel sad. When they read the story, they feel angry. They can feel the emotions through stories. They can express themselves through stories. They're not necessarily very personal. They are quite not related to like their own people or their own lives, but very indirectly they are analyzing their emotions and seeing the impact of emotions on other people. How, when I'm angry, if I do something, how would this mean to someone else? So this is important. So they need to be able to understand their expression, how they express themselves, how their expressions, self-expressions or relation impact on their relationship building. So this relationship building is everything that we have in the family, in the school, in the community, in the globe. So this relationship building is very important that they need to develop slowly. And it's not one place we develop this and finishing it. It's not in one classroom we do. This is a continuum. I think even adults need to have self opportunities to reflect on their own emotions, interrogate their own thoughts, self-expression. Even adults go through these really conflicting times where they are unable to express themselves, can control themselves. So this is a continuum of development. This has to be through all sectors, allowing opportunities in whatever we do to help people to communicate, think, someone involving, someone who can do this, like a teacher who's able to scaffold the thinking. So it's very important that teachers are well equipped to enhance children's self-education in this way. Thank you. Hope I have answered your question.
Of course, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So as you have discussed in the previous questions as well, self-awareness and self-management are prominent concepts within social and emotional development. On the other hand, they are closely linked concepts. For an example, being able to stop and calm when one is upset comes under self-management, whereas the tactics like understanding and labeling the emotions to do so comes under self-awareness. So, I mean, what is self-awareness and what is self-management? What are they really mean?
Yes, I mean, self-awareness is once again understanding. It's very, all these concepts we talk about, it's very hard to define. Self-awareness, self-control, self-concept, and that's all about self. So self is very important, and these concepts are related to individual, how they feel, how they behave, how they understand who they are, how they manage their own emotions. It's very self, like, you know, the individual's behavior, individual's thinking, individual person's feelings. These are very important in cell education. So managing them, understanding them, I think that's very important. As I said, self-awareness, understanding what's happening. I mean, it's not stereotyping, or it's not necessarily branding or anything like that. We are saying my the emotions, it all depend on the context you operate. Sometimes you feel differently in another context. One context is different from another context. So we keep doing this. We keep evaluating ourselves, our behavior, our verbal behavior, our physical behavior constantly in different places, wherever we are. So this is understanding the social context we operate in the family, in the community, with your siblings or with your parents. I think these are really hard for even teachers to understand how to deal with these concepts, how to enhance, because direct communication may not necessarily help. So, for example, if you praise a student or someone, overpraising someone, praising someone constantly, they'll develop this ego. Ego is sometimes not too good, as you know. So it's very important that they are able to actually see the balance, like in the balance of the personality, understanding who they are, what they actually do well and what they don't do well. And it's all the time developing the character. We all evolve as good people. We should not let kids evolve or children evolve into sort of very negative, depressed kind of environment where they don't feel that they actually have a really good self-concept, where they feel that they have the growth mindset. So when they have the growth mindset, they understand that even if I fail angry this time, I'll feel different next time. I feel different in another time. So it's very important. But kids don't have that capacity. One of my research colleagues from Finland, her name is Maria Koviula, and she has developed a program in early childhood education in Finland using puppets. Kids can use prixies when they feel kind of feeling a bit weird. They could say, this is how I feel. They could use puppets, use different puppets to show this is how I feel today. And another way, angry bold or happy bold, or these puppets are given names. So whenever kids go through these emotions, they go and pick the prixie or the puppets, so that they can show other people how they feel on the day. This is enabling them, showing them how to do it, because articulation or saying how they feel is different and also hard to explain. Kids go through a series of emotions every day, and you don't know when you feel angry. Sometimes it's hard to assess, for us to assess how we feel. So when you feel, if you know, rather than you have the verbal communication sometimes can be bad because it could be misinterpreted or misread or kind of not clearly understood. These prixies or these puppets can help kids to actually show their own emotions, just to recognize emotion. Emotions recognition is very important before you manage yourself. Control. How do you know? When you don't know how you feel, how can you manage? There is no way you do it. It's very important recognizing emotions. Most of the time, what happens in our community, when we don't allow our children to experience this, they actually don't understand, recognize emotions. So this self-awareness is important, how they feel, constantly evaluating, not necessarily deliberately, but indirectly trying to understand how they feel, recognize their emotions, have the control is what we actually call as self-awareness and self-management. For example, kids might say, use the puppets and say, oh, I'm feeling sad. What should I do now? How do I overcome with this feeling? How do I manage the feeling rather than overcoming? So the kid would say, in my friends or Dr. Mirja Kovula's experiment, kid said, when I'm feeling sad, I get the puppet and I would like to play with, or I want to play with the puppet. And when someone is sad, my friend is sad, I need to go and help my friend. And I need to ask how my friend is feeling that day. So when I'm angry, I ask my friend to give me his bicycle or ride my bicycle, and I overcome my feeling. So it's very important we develop mechanism to manage these or control these emotions that are there. So what's happening in our community now, and Dr. Dheeraj talked about this murder, and I empathize with the kid who actually did it, because it's the community or the system, education system, brought the child into that state where he's unable to manage the emotions. Like he was unable to interrogate or understand the feeling and find a better way, or a sort of a appropriate way, not an appropriate way, appropriate way to actually deal with the emotions. You know, recent massacre in Texas, one kid going and massacring or killing, shooting 10-year-olds. How can you imagine a child doing this? Because he was unable to actually, understand his emotions. His emotional control is in a complete mess. We need to empathize with such. It's our fault that we did not allow opportunities to actually, for the child to actually understand and kind of control his emotions, from the way that we are not, our control or what we do, our mechanisms that we take may not impact anyone outside. And we need to have that feeling of empathy. If you don't have that empathy or theory of mind, how are we going to do that? So I think we can talk a lot about this, as I can see this story that Dr. Dheeraj mentioned at the beginning. I really, really feel sorry for the child who committed this crime. It's because it's our fault. It's not the child's fault. We shouldn't be pointing at the child who did it. Actually, we should reflect on our education system, the community, the adults, and also we are all responsible for what's happened. All educated, I would say. We could do something to help people express those emotions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So as we have just clarified on what is awareness and what is management, I think now we have the foundation to discuss the applicability of these concepts, or as like what are the activities that can be done to improve these skills within a preschool or a primary school, or as I mean, what are the activities that already carried out in the preschools or primary schools in your state or country for these concepts?
Thank you. So it's as I said, controlling one's emotions, acting in a socially responsible way is significant. It's very important, right, for learning, and it's an impact on the child's learning, achievement, and its impact on peer relations and impact on overall well-being of a child. So the community here, school teachers here do various, use various approaches like storytelling. It's sort of something that I have experienced and researched. My research, in my research, I have analyzed storytelling episodes where children actually express their emotions, where they talk about it and how they develop this wisdom. So my publication about is upcoming, and you will be able to see how these story episodes actually providing a wonderful platform for this cell education. On the other hand, we have lots of other activities. For example, circle times. That is also storytelling. Sitting with the teacher and telling how they feel, just a story, just something. There are lots of activities, and also sensory gardens where they go and touch, like when they feel bad, they can go and understand, like kind of allow them time to deal with their own emotions from the own ways of doing. Lots of strategies we use. But I think it's very important that the kids actually understand the education systems, understand the value of very informal approaches where you play in the garden or the playground time, where they freely think about or play with other peers. We are building lots of skills through play, like the traveling or excursions and mountain climbing or different other activities that the kids do in the field, rather than their education is confined to classroom walls where they are restricted or where they are controlled and where they're forced to study. I think that kind of education is really impacting badly on kids' emotional learning. Cognitively, also, that's not good. I mean, it does not necessarily impact on the cognitive development. Think about in Sri Lanka, scholarship, young people, when they're 5 scholarship exam, every parent want their kids to do scholarship exam well. And they're not necessarily thinking about the well-being of the child. It's only the matter. It's just the very linear approach to education where you pass education or gather education qualifications. I don't think this system is helping. This system is not helping our education system. While education achievement is really important, knowledge is important, it has to be provided through very child-friendly approaches. We use inquiry learning here. Inquiry learning is very much child-driven learning. We use personalized learning strategies here. Personalized learning is very child-driven. It's learner taking the control of learning, the learner driving the learning, not just teacher controlled. I think very hierarchical structures, teacher controlled, classroom controlled education system is hampering our cell education. I think we need to have very open eyes to our education system, and particularly in Sri Lanka and India, not thinking that Western approaches are better, but I think the people in Australia have, they rely on evidence, they relied on research findings, they rely on the evidence-based practice. I think that's what we need to do. I know when it comes to Sri Lanka and India, you might think that the Western education may not necessarily work in India or Sri Lanka, but there are lots of good lessons that we can learn from the education systems in the West. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you for highlighting the scope that we can go in and execute course in our education system as well. So thank you very much for that as well. So relationship building and responsible decision making, as you have touched earlier also, are widely discussed concepts, especially in the modern world. So we as adults, most of the days come across many situations due to lack of these competencies in the society. So accordingly, how do you relate this to a child? Or as like, why do you think that children should develop skills for relationship building and responsible decision making?
Yeah, as I highlighted before, yes, relationship building is very important. I mean, that's a 21st century skill. If you have developed these soft skills, you could succeed very well wherever you operate. It doesn't necessarily be in one place, in your own context. So it's cultural awareness. It's very important to understand the differences between people. Diversity is the hierarchical system or the critical consciousness, you know, the understanding the different levels that we operate in the community. When we understand more about how we operate in the community, we could develop relationship better. You know, in a classroom, you may find students from diverse backgrounds, kids from wealthy families, socio-economically disadvantaged or lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So it doesn't necessarily matter who they are, what social circumstances or levels that they live in. Relationship building in the classroom, creating a really friendly classroom, teachers can develop kids building these relationships. That's why I say the stories are important, because the stories can actually bring the real social like episodes where you find a rich boy and a poor boy operating in the same environment. And you may see how these two people can be friends irrespective of their class barrier, irrespective of their culture barrier, irrespective of their language barriers, color, whatever difference that we all share, accommodating the differences, acknowledging the humans, like in the quality. I think it's very important. So it is very important that we provide that environment in the classroom, that teachers need to be able to develop those, provide those opportunities. I wouldn't say teachers are taking a very controlling role here. I am saying that teacher needs to provide opportunities. Providing opportunity. You can't teach, give them the opportunity. That's what I say. So the relationship building is you learn by doing it. You talk to someone, you learn. You walk with someone, you learn. You be with someone, you learn. We have to put the kids in the environment, collaboration, working in collaboration, working with the teacher, working with anyone, working in the community. They develop. It's a continuum. As I said, relationship building cannot be fixed in one lesson, from one story. It's a continuum of learning. It happens, it develops over time. And it's not necessarily something that you can address or done and dusted. No, it has to be continuously working, happening in schools. I think the teachers need to work in collaboration to design strategies for children's social emotional learning. They need to share what other teachers do and learn from what they're doing and pick approaches that actually help them building relationships. These are very important. And decision-making skills. We all make bad decisions. We all make good decisions. But bad decisions are okay, because that's what our life is. We all make decisions, and then sometimes our decisions go wrong. What is important is to reflect. Can we reflect? Yes, I did something wrong. Accept. Yes, I did something wrong, and move forward. I think that's something we need to learn. Everywhere in the community, I think we need to be able to reflect on what we do. Reflection is one of the most important skills for young people and old people. What can we do to allow kids to reflect? We could give them activities to reflect. What did you do wrong? What did you do right? How can you do better next time? So do teachers do that, rather than we have very right, wrong answers? We often have in the education, particularly, I'm very aware in Sri Lanka, it's just the rote learning. Yes, this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer. We have very limited open-ended questions where you actually have time to see different perspectives, value what other people are saying. Yes, you have your perspective. You have the very right to have your own perspective. I like your perspective, but my perspective is different. It's okay to have different perspectives. And I can see this is a huge problem in the country now. People have all sorts of perspectives, but they are not respecting each other's perspective. They think my perspective is the right perspective. I think this is it's developed through the system of education. The pedagogy, or what's happening in the classroom happens in the society. I think we need to change what happens in the classroom to change the society. I think we need to equip teachers with practical strategies, not very teacher controlled, but very children driven or student driven pedagogies or strategies to help kids developing opportunities, no teaching, providing opportunities. I would always say, provide opportunities, do not teach, because we interfere our kids with our own attitudes. Sometimes our attitudes are not the best that we want to transfer to young kids. We want them to be better than us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. Not only for elaborating on the question, but also for highlighting a very timely phenomenon with regard to the present Sri Lankan context, where we are struggling a lot, mainly due to not respecting different perspectives of different citizens. So I guess with that, considering that as well, we can fix the problems to a greater extent. And with the fact you've highlighted that we have to respect the perspectives of different personalities. So by considering all these things, like yes, we might have a better future in going forward. So thank you very much for highlighting that as well. So it's obvious that we as parents, we as teachers have a responsibility in making a child competent with regard to relationship building and responsible decision making, which at the end of the day has a significant positive impact towards the society as well. So what kind of activities are being carried out at the preschools or primary schools in your state or country to encourage these skills?
Yeah, I think I will have to reiterate or say it again what I said. Diverse activities, there is no one size fits all pedagogy, but I think it's very important to provide opportunities, not teach. Adults or the teachers can scaffold students' thinking, have dialogues, encourage them talking, and building relationship, providing a very stress-free classrooms so that kids can actually have freedom as real freedom for them to explore and learn. That's very important. So not rather very teacher controlled, classroom controlled education. So I would reiterate the value of the stories, real stories, not necessarily fairy tales, but they are really authentic stories where we could actually provide real life scenarios, real life stories for kids to analyze, understand, get that wisdom. So not necessarily knowledge, we need to provide them wisdom. So that's something I would encourage that us as teachers or teacher educators need to be thinking about. But I would say here, making a change is slow. We need to make changes slowly. We can't convert the entire situation to a really good situation. These small things you do in the classroom can definitely impact on our community or future community. So we need to slowly, I think we need to start from each teacher, each classroom, and then the system. I would say, of course, we want to change the system. So the system cannot be overturned, system cannot be changed overnight. It has to be everyone's effort to make whatever contribution that they can make to change the system. So we could, I mean, at whatever level you operate, if you are operating at a very high level, policy making, you make decisions over there. If you're operating at classroom level, you take whatever steps you can. I think so. Adults education through forums like this is very important to make changes in the community, what happens in the classroom, particularly in relation to cell education. So I think all the elements in cell education that we talk are very important: self-awareness, self-control, social awareness, social control, relationship building, and decision making. So we could actually educate teachers to think about these elements of cell education and help designing pedagogies to provide opportunities for them to develop these aspects in children. There is no, as I said, there is no one way to do it, but educating and equipping teachers with diverse approaches would definitely help the future system, I would say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And I totally agree with the fact that you highlighted the system. This system cannot be changed overnight. It has to be a continuous process, and it has to come from each and every party of the society. For an example, now a child as the basic unit of the society. I mean, making a child competent in terms of social and emotional factors. I mean, the half of the job is done with that, I guess, because the child is the primary unit of the society. So that's what we were talking throughout this interview with regard to relating to the research you've done on storytelling. I guess the educators in Sri Lanka might have gained a lot through the facts you've shared with regard to your research, and I invite all the educators to refer your journals if possible to get a more elaborative idea on these factors, and you can take them into consideration in changing your curriculums as well. So that's a good opportunity for countries like us. So thank you very much, ma'am. So with that, I guess we've come to an end of this interview. So this is your opportunity if you have anything else to add prior to winding up the session.
Thank you, Hasini, and thank you, the organizing committee, for the invitation and to talk about this cell education at this forum. Um, 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 the last message I would say is, my message is for teachers to think about the importance of cell education, particularly storytelling, developing children's wisdom through stories. When you are selecting a story to read, or story reading, or storytelling, or story teaching, or whatever activity you do, pick a story that actually can help students to keep children to understand and talk about the experiences that we all have in the community. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, my last message is, let's all work together to enhance cell education, work with our young children, and let's give them the opportunity to develop these cell skills so that they'll become informed citizens in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. So I would like to thank Dr. Maya Gunawardana for accepting our interview at the first place and for all your preparation. And finally, for committing your time today to share your knowledge and experience with all of us. It was indeed a fruitful session. So once again, thank you very much for joining with us despite all your busy schedules. And thank you, Dr. Dheeraj Malhotra from India. And thank you, Mr. Janaka Kamalgada, for giving us this opportunity and for planning all these events. So thank you very much, sir. So with that, I guess we have come to the end of another live interview. Finally, I would like to remind you all about the summit once again. So it's the South Asian International Education Summit 2022. We'll be having it from 18th to 20th June in Colombo, Sri Lanka. So in a time the country is facing a lot of difficulties, I believe it would be a great helping hand if anyone possible can join with us for this event. So the country is awaiting to welcome all of you all for this event from 18th to 20th June. So with that reminder, I believe we can wind up the session. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Maya, Dr. Dheeraj, and Mr. Janaka Kamalgoda. Thank you and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Dr. Dheeraj, would you like to add anything, say anything about it?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so
So sorry. I was engaged in some other work. Thank you. Thank you. Tell me.
no, I just wanted your feedback on what I just said about storytelling, and I
It's,
don't
it's
know
something,
whether,
it's something like showing a torch to the sun.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, no, it was really nice. Whatever I could hear, I could make out that yes, it's a wonderful experience being there with you this morning, and I'm looking forward sometime, even if in Australia, anytime you tell me, we'll make sure that with the help of the South Asian Institute and Mr. Janika, we can plan out some event, of course, looking forward with some educators around. I work with a capacity of being a teacher trainer as well. And in addition to that, I've been an author for over 100 plus books. Some of my books are available at Amazon. You'll find them on uh, the
What
portal.
genre are you writing? Are they fiction? So what?
Yes, I basically write on education management, teacher training, NLP in
Ah,
education, neuro-linguistic programming, and
uh-huh.
also Six Sigma in education, experiential learning. And then a few of my books are on current topics like VUCA world, how to teach in the VUCA world. And then, of course, I have written on cloud online reputation management. And also one of my books I'm compiling these days is digital minimalism.
Uh-huh.
So that
Looks
way,
very interesting.
yes. And then there's a book on experiential learning for educators. So then I try to create Six Sigma in education also, which is a
Mhm.
concept, and then TQM in education, quality circles. So these are some of my topics. And in addition, I have also got few Udemy courses on various
Uh-huh.
topics. There are around
Uh-huh.
400 plus courses are there on udemy.com, which are
Uh-huh.
many countries. I have students around 140 countries. They are using some of my
Mhm.
courses. So
Mhm.
believing in the fact that yes, we are living in a world which is quite different now. Of course, technology is playing a wider role to connect all of us. The pandemic has taught us to overcome challenges in the best of the possible, but only it is possible when we have a good mental health. And that
Yeah.
is like the best in you. You talked about storytelling, not only to empower the students, but also keep them silent, keep them at pace, and keep them, humble
Mhm.
on the earth, on ground, that they
Yeah.
should not be, because the comparative analysis is somewhat ruining them. That even the parents tend to compare their children with different wards. Oh, the child living in that flat number is better
Yeah.
than you. So these
Yeah.
things, I think it's an orientation required from the side of the parents and from the side of the children and also the teachers in a big way. And here at Commerce Global School in Lucknow, we tend to reflect on the idea of catching them young and innocent.
Mhm.
And uh, the triangle which is there between the parents, the teachers, and the students go a long way in connecting with them and looking forward to having a feedback from these stakeholders, particularly the parents, is very
Mhm.
important because we generally tend to reflect on depending on the one or the two parent teacher meeting which occurs maybe once in 3 months or 2 months. But I think there has to be a substitute like that of coffee table rounds, maybe virtually, maybe physically. uh, I think with all the subject teachers coming together for a particular class and then talk
Yeah.
about each child on a common platform,
Yeah.
so I think this is the right point. And then good movies should be shown to the children with some takeaways, particularly on
Yes.
ground of mental
Agreed.
health
Mm,
and social emotional learning. Yeah, so
yeah.
this is
And not necessarily showing, but having the dialogue is important. Individual.
yes,
Yeah. The
yes.
dialogue is the, yes.
Engaging them
Yeah.
and also
Engaging
asking
them. Yes.
Yes, also asking them to be the role models,
Mhm.
We have something, if you Google the term Nukkar Natak, we try to ape the
Yeah.
realities of life at the
Yes.
crossings
The
of
face, the
different
reality. Yes.
Yes.
That's very
So,
important.
so we try to ape the reality and showcase it in general public or in the
Yeah.
school assemblies, so that the
Yes.
children get to know about the reality and how to overcome it. That's what I was talking about, the very concept of resilience, if you remember, and the
Yes.
beauty of it, and
Yes.
how best we can overcome that part of building resilience.
Yes. I think
And
you can, yeah, you can talk about this topic for days and months because there are so many elements and areas that are really important
very,
and need
very,
discussion.
yes.
So lots
I
of
liked your session
values,
very
lots
much.
of
Thank
things.
you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, and very nice to have met with you, and good luck with the conference, and
Thank
happy
you.
to help anyone at any time, because as educated in Australia, we work with the community and we try to be any help, whatever way we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take care and God bless you.
Thank you very much. And I can't remember, it was Janaka, right? Dr. Janaka?
Yeah, Kamal, I am here.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much. And it was just your quick LinkedIn message that actually encouraged me to do this presentation. I quite enjoyed. I'm not sure whether I actually have
Lovely.
provided something for the audience, but of course, I am really inspired by my own own storytelling. So I talked a lot about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And how is our organization team? Our girls, did they will support?
Sorry?
How is our
Hasini?
organization team? Yeah, Hasini and
Yeah,
our
that's
team.
great. Yeah, she's good. Hasini is great. Yeah, thank you. And
And so is the leader. And so is
yeah.
the leader.
Sorry?
I said, and so is the leader, Mr. Janaka.
Oh, yeah, he's the leader. Yeah. So, Janaka, it's really good if you do something in Sinhalese. I don't think some primary school teachers or early educators would understand what I talked about in English. Perhaps it's good to, I don't know, do a transcript in Sinhalese or an article on Sinhalese or something, sort of translating what I have just said. Yeah, would be helpful.
And yeah, the summit, our aim is to touch with the all South Asian countries through the summit. In addition to that, I think we want to get a lot from you for the Sri Lankan teachers.
Yes, of course. Happy to help.
I will not give up you because I am director of the even in the NITA. I am I am member of the board of directors at the National Apprentice and Industrial Training Authority, NITA.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll invite you to the national contribution through the NITA also. And
thank you.
Yeah, I want to make a small request. Our inauguration ceremony will be launched at 9:30 on 18 Saturday. Can you join virtually?
Yes. Yeah. Send me the invitation to the Zoom. I will join virtually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Minister and all the delegates. No, yes, Dr. Dhiraj sir. It is very good, no? The Sri Lankan brilliant lady in Australia. Then we can invite. Yeah, I'll send all the details to you.
Very good. Really.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have shared Hasini my email address, so you may send send the link to my email address, and I'm looking forward to. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you very much for all. Okay, thank
you. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll. Okay, enjoy the day. Thank you.
Sure.